What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis. Today I have a review for you for a REKON35. It is just out now. It is a little 3-inch 2S 18650 battery setup with crossfire. It has GPS on here and it has a DJI Vista with a Caddx Polar camera in the very front. So I'm interested to see what kind of flight time I can get with two 18650s. Now, it is a really extremely cold day, so I'm not expecting to get like 30 minutes out of this quad on these two 18650s, but I will tell you that if you've never flown 18650s before, it can be kind of fun. It's a challenge. When you're flying on Li-ion batteries, what you have to do is go find the minimum amount of throttle that you can fly and keep the nose up with and go straight ahead with to be able to get the longest flight time. And that's what I'm doing today, is just trying to see how long of a flight I can get out of two 18650s. The next best thing aside from long flight times and just being a cruiser, not a freestyler, the next best thing about this quad is that the batteries are super cheap. So 18650s can cost you anywhere from $4 to $5 a piece, but I'm going to suggest that you get the ones down at the link below. I'm going to try to find some good quality ones for you. And today I'm testing out the Eachine branded 18650 Li-ion. So we're going to see how those perform, and I'll let you know after we do the flight test what kind of performance you can expect out of the Eachine 18650. So without further ado guys, let's go ahead and fire up the REKON35. Let's do a little bit of flying, and then I'll give you an honest review about what my opinion is on the components, the tune, and the fun factor. As always, here we go, REKON35. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump right into this REKON35 HD. Now, this 2S setup is special because it allows us to put the Caddx Vista on board, and that's what a lot of you guys wished you had in the first original version. The Recon 3 was running a single 18650, and you weren't able to run HD Vistas on board. So now you're at 2S and you can run HD, which is super sweet. So you can see all of the ghost branches when you're flying by, and flying in HD is just so much nicer than analog. However, I still have analog goggles and I still fly analog goggles. But if you want to spend the extra money, that's something that is worth every single penny, in my opinion. But I'm flying today on the Eachine 18650s, and you know, so far it's cold outside, so I was expecting 15 to 20 minutes on this flight test, but I'm gonna kind of chop up this video and shorten it quite a bit, because I did get 10 minutes out of these batteries, and I say 10 minutes, just above 10 minutes. And what happens is, when 18650s die, they die fast. They just tank. So when you get around 3 volts, you should be back to where you took off from, because otherwise you're going to be down in the trees somewhere, out in the field, across the road, down the road, at the church, wherever. You're going to have to go get it. This little guy will have enough juice left to beep if you lose connection. And the cool thing is that the good news is that my biggest fear with this 2S setup was when I was dipping down into the 2.6 to 7 volt range. That's when you should be on the ground. I was afraid that once I dipped below 3 volt with these 18650s, that the HD system would black out. So I was afraid that I was going to have a blackout during this flight. So what I ended up doing was watching my single cell voltage per voltage. You want that up on the screen if you're flying something with 18650s. It's very important that you know individual cell voltage. So at this point, I'm getting down to around 3 volts. I'm about 9 minutes into the flight, and I just wanted to be close to home, because I thought I was going to have a blackout, and then I was going to have to kind of disarm the quad or either try to land really quickly in stability mode. But I didn't have to do that, because whatever they did, REKONFpv put some type of system on here, some type of safeguard for the HD system not to black out. If yours blacked out, let me know, but mine didn't, which is great news for this type of quad and this technology. So the fear of the blackout is real, and it didn't happen. I think the tune could be way better. I have, it seems like lower in the battery, I have more jitter, kind of prop kind of jitter there. It needs a much better tune, probably lower on the numbers. The numbers are probably a little too high and it's making the gyro too sensitive. So I'm going to try to tune this one for the community, and I'll try to drop the PIDs down in the comments below, and I'll pin it to the top of the comments for you once I get it tuned. But it is around $300, and could it be better? Yes, but I don't know of another 18650 Lion Micro with full Vista and HD on board out there. So if you're strapped for cash, get the analog version. That one's $150, and you can play around with this. And as long as you follow that general rule of being back to your home point by 2.8 volts under load, you'll be fine. That means while you're flying. When you sit it down on the ground, your voltage will hop up to about a little above 3 volt, so you won't damage your 18650s. That's just a little advice for you guys. If you're brand new and flying 18650s, it's a lot of fun. And right here, I'm coming around the van, and this is where I'm keeping it really close, because I noticed my voltage started to drop like crazy. And here it's like dropped below like 2 volt, and it just sagged out, and I was done.
What's up, guys? All right, welcome back from the flight test. Let's go ahead and get into what the REKON35 is all about. We're also going to give you a little bit of information on the previous version, the REKON3. The REKON3 was similar to this one. It's under 250 grams, just like this one is, which is great. But this one has the HD option and 2S on board, and we're looking at a maximum flight time of about 15 minutes. Now, that's if you're using some nice like Samsung style quality 18650 milliamp 3000 milliamp batteries. These are the eSheens that I tested on a very cold day, around 40 degrees or less. These are a 2500 milliamp. I would not recommend 2500 milliamp, because on a cold day, using 2500 milliamp eSheen version 18650s, I got around 10 minutes flight time, and that is the real world flight test time. So 10 minutes isn't really going to be considered long range flight, because you're 5 minutes out and 5 minutes back, and then you're dead on the concrete wherever you took off from. So my biggest concern right away with this one being an HD version on 18650 batteries is that the CADX Vista is running 700 milliwatts. So I believe that full 700 milliwatt also will affect your flight time. So if you bring down your milliwatt to say 200 milliwatt, or even like 600, you'll have a little more flight time. It's just pulling on those batteries a little harder than the typical flight would. So our analog, as long as you're running a less milliwatt on the power. So you have 2 versions available of this one on Banggood's website. You can get the HD version for around $299, which is a pretty competitive price for a DJI Vista setup. If you want to go HD, this is probably one of the cheapest ways that you can do it for just under $300. The analog version of it, if you've already got Sky Zone goggles, $159, and you can be flying one of these. So 18650 batteries are cheap. I'm going to put some 3000 milliamps down below in the link with the REKON35, and these the ones that I'm going to link are way better than these. So pick those up and fly those on your REKON35. Now, if you guys already have one of these, let me know in the comments down below how you're doing with yours or what you think about it. Now, we have 3.5-inch props on here, and we have some REKONFpv branded 1303.5 motors, and these are 5500 kV. I feel like if they were 4500 kV, maybe they would be a little more efficient. But you know what, this quad, we were talking about this on the podcast recently. You guys should definitely join us on Friday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Me and Nick were talking about this. I mean, this has pretty much all the good stuff you'd want on some micro for long range. Guys were talking about this. I want to fly a micro long range. If you put the nicer 3000 milliamp battery on there, you're going to get close to 15 minutes flight time. my concern with this was that since mine is the HD version, I was afraid that this unit right here down on the bottom was going to have a blackout. When these 18650s get down to that low voltage, running an HD setup VTX, I was afraid I was going to have a total blackout because this only runs around 2S minimum. So, you know, when you get down into the 6-volt range, that very low bottom of the barrel Lion range voltage, I was totally petrified that I was going to have a blackout way out over the cornfields. And unfortunately, I didn't have my beeper set up for that flight, so I could have turned the radio off and this thing would beep. But I was worried about that, so that was a concern for me. I feel like the analog version wouldn't do that, and a lot of times that's why they do like an analog version of an 18650 setup. So in this particular model, it says on REKON35's advertising that they have some type of technology on here that safeguards against having the blackout. So whatever it was, I mean, you can check it out here. Like as I was landing on the lowest, I mean, all of a sudden these 18650s, they will tank when they're at the bottom of the cell voltage at like 2.7 volt. You can fly them down to 2.8. I do it all the time, and then when you land, it's going to be higher. But man, you better be back to the home point or heading back when you get to about 3 volt. You better be over your home field and just making some laps, because if you're trying to get the maximum flight time, your battery is going to tank hard at the end. And this is not a freestyle quad by any means. It is a cruiser. Anytime you see 18650 batteries, it's going to be a cruiser. And that's what you have to know about 18650 type quads. These are cruisers, they're not freestyle quads, they're meant for medium range. I would say this is a medium range quad, not a long range. But we were talking about it on the podcast, and we said that everything on here, I mean, this has everything you'd want. HD, TBS Crossfire Nano. We have GPS on board. We have low KV motors that can run 2S, and you have the Caddx Polar camera on this quad. So really cool, and a mount that's already ready to go for a D-case GoPro up front. So that's pretty sweet. My only criticism would be maybe that they could make this hammer left-hand circular polarized HD antenna just a little taller. If we had a little taller one there, it would probably be a little better across the parking lot. When I was flying it across the parking lot in between some trees and things, it had more breakup than traditional type of setup would. So that was interesting to me. We also have an AIO board in here, and it has they have a little USB connector in the box here, and it's on a 45 degree point right here. So you can see it's on a 45, and you have to plug in your adapter here and come out the side like this. Pretty tight. It's actually really tight in here to get this in here. So I wish that was a little easier to access. So you got to be really careful when you're putting this in and out, because you can break off USB connectors off flight controllers. So that's one thing you want to be super careful with. The next thing is, you know, I do honest reviews. So I don't feel like the tune is all that great on this. I think if someone else out there has a better tune, there was quite a bit of wobble in the flight test. So I'm looking for a better tune on this. And, you know, I've run into that tune problem, like the Recon 3, the first one that they ever sent me. The tune was absolutely terrible. I was so excited, though, to have a 1S little kind of long-range quad, but the problem was that the tune was so terrible, I had to quit flying it, and I ended up getting a second version of it with a little better tune on there, and probably some tweaks on the setup, because these have been really experimental in the past year. So I'm happy to see that they made a 3.5-inch version with 3520 gem fan props on here. You can also get the Zeus Nano analog version. So that's like a tiny little VTX with 350 milliwatt. But this was neat and kind of cool to me, and especially nice that there is GPS, Betaflight GPS back here. This is an M80 GPS. So I was able to get like 17 satellites on this. This is GLONASS, and these are pretty cheap to replace if you totally trashed it. But I don't feel like this quad's going to hit the ground super hard if you did crash. It is very light. It's under the 250 gram mark, and this is kind of like what we've all been waiting for. It's like a 2S version of one of these little 18650 quads. So again, I will put the link down below for some 18650 3000 milliamp ones, and you pick up that battery and you'll have a much better experience if you're thinking about going into one of these micros for what I would say medium range. I wouldn't say this is a long range quad, but we're getting there, folks, and this is nice to see an HD version of this. I may try to tune it for you guys and drop some PIDs down below at some point for you, or maybe I'll show them on Friday night podcast once I get this thing tuned for the community. So I appreciate all you guys as usual watching my channel, checking out the new podcast. Also, please do join us on Drone Camp's Facebook community, because man, we have an awesome community, about 2,500 pilots on there, and it's really laid back, no drama or any mean guys on there if you're there to ask a question. So it's a really nice place to be for asking questions, sharing your videos and things like that. And if you'd like to have your video showcased on Friday night, please do drop your link down below in this video in the comments and share your video with us, because I'd like for everybody to see you guys' videos. The Everything FPV podcast is right here on the channel, and it's not about me, it's about the community, and bringing us all together and being able to be in one place just to hang out and have some fun with this sport we call FPV. So this is the REKON35, guys. Stay fly out there, take care, and I will see you on the next one.